have to say this because you said something, and when you're saying it, it's like, I've spoken to my son. I sat down and said it to my son, and I put him on a podcast if I wanted to, and I've said to him, you can be anything. I've had this conversation with him several times. I've probably even told one of you two about this before. I said to him before, you can be anything. You're young enough to achieve anything you want to right now. So that anything you want, you can achieve. And I've said that to him. So when you say we don't allow him to have the options and that, what? I've told him.
No, let him finish, man.
Finish
your point. I'm gonna gun you down, but go on, finish.
No, my point, and this podcast is about saying, as a culture, we more aspire for or we gravitate towards pushing them towards the entertainment values of things. So we would, like you just tried to say, we'd push them to be Bukayo Saka, the Rashfords, and all the rest of it. I'm like, well, is it because of them, or is it just because they're accessible, or is it because these are the things that we wanted to achieve when we was younger? So the same way you're trying to now say, Sorelli would now turn and say he wanted to be a pilot. I don't know who gave you that idea in the first place, because we didn't go on to that, but someone must have given you the idea to say, I want to be a pilot, and that's what you want to be, which is, again, away from the grain. But the grain is usually football, entertainment, acting, sports. It just is.
I've been really quiet here. No. I've been really quiet here, and I've got to say I totally disagree. Because you're talking about possibly Black British culture.
Okay.
If you talk about, go back, my parents weren't looking to be an entertainer. I mean, the last podcast, it's a shame he's not here, shouts to Eddie. Eddie said his dad was a lawyer, his missus' dad was a lawyer, his missus is a lawyer, all studied law.
And he studied law.
And none of them, one second, but the point being, none of them are lawyers. The issue with saying that it's people in...
Can you just repeat that?
Yeah, so Eddie said that, Eddie from Hayes at Me, he was saying that he studied law, his missus studied law, his dad studied law, his father-in-law studied law, and none of them practiced law. So the thing about it, when we're saying about focusing on entertainment, it depends on, you have to start sort of like granularize what Black culture you're talking about. Because I know my mum and dad weren't telling me about entertainment and they weren't pushing me there. My dad studied law, my granddad studied law. It was about, you're going to study law. I didn't study law, but the point was everybody was focusing on us
what's crazy,
to study.
while he's a DJ.
Education.
From law.
But I studied media studies and journalism because I wanted to be a journalist. DJing was a pastime that became something that paid. Wasn't something I chose that I wanted to do.
It's funny you say that, and it's which I wanted to come on to, was there are a lot of, and especially in African culture, and even in some of the West Indian culture, all right, or Caribbean culture, because it's going to upset Citrus, all right, they would be more on pushing you towards education and not pushing you towards trying to say, you know what, I want to do sports. Because if I wanted to do sports, you're not going to be a footballer. You go learn your book. That's what you're getting taught, getting told, and Rain could probably clarify some of that, because that's what we'd be pushed to. Go do your book, because that's what we was told, and you should even be able to be as well. Go do your book. Go learn some maths, and I know you had to learn that. All right. So what you're saying, I agree with, but then I also heard say from, like you said, English culture now and how we are as parents and growing up. I wanted my son to be a footballer. I'm not going to say I didn't.
It's once again, it's what you aspire towards
and what you're exposed to. Sorry, let me just interject there for a second. We all have kids in some capacity. My son is 6 years old, my youngest. If I asked him right now, what does he want for Christmas? I don't know. Not that he doesn't know what he wants. It's just that there's so many options of, if you ask them, what do they want? I don't know. So coming back to what Citrus is saying, you can't then say, well, you know what? Oh, why don't you be a pilot? Why don't you be the president of the prime minister of Jamaica? Why don't you become a skateboarder? Because they don't know at that point. The reason why a lot of these, and Dean's, Citrus's example, is that he had that guidance. He had somebody to show him, listen, when you're in the plane and you do this, that makes the plane go down. All of a sudden, you're piquing his interest in that. If your dad played golf, right now you play golf. Not necessarily professionally, but you'd go down there and you would have a wicked golf swing on you. If your dad played tennis, if Rain's dad was... I don't know, a marine biologist. Man will be coming up here talking about all these different places in the ocean. Do you understand? So it's what you're exposing your kids to. So the perfect example right now is, what are you doing with your son that's not in the mainstream media that he sees? What outside of the box are you doing with him? Are you prepared to send him to a school where you have to pay for him to be there to mingle with other kids who are from a totally different walk of life.
You become footballers.
But do you understand what I'm saying? Because when you go to the general schools, the public schools, the one closest to your house, the likelihood that one of your son's friends, their parents is, I don't know, an astronaut or something that's just off the beaten track is highly unlikely. Whereas if you're, and again, like
Private school, if you go private school,
grammar school,
and yeah, my friend's mum owns Kodak. My aunt's dad
is a diamond collector.
Yeah, the other person is a director for BAFTA. The other person, they discovered oil in the middle of the Sahara.
And when you're
or one of them works in a coal mine, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not always that though, because I use James O'Brien as the example. His dad was working class. He worked 2 or 3 jobs to put him through private school.
But he was a reporter.
He worked 2 or 3 jobs to put him. Remember, being a reporter back in them days was difficult.
It was difficult, but the reason why I mentioned it, and sorry to interject, is that it meant that you met different classes of people. So he was still in that environment where you may meet you might interview a prime minister. Tomorrow you might be sent down to a coal mine so this is what I'm saying. It's still access to different environments.
The point I was making is that James saw his dad doing X, Y, and Z, and then thought, right, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to surpass you. Now, using my son as the example, my son plays football. Does he want to be a footballer? Yes. Why? Because, his exact words, I can earn lots of money. But he also wants to be an engineer. Why? Because I like building stuff and making stuff. Right. So therefore, what's your focus? I've sat down and said, I think, I can't remember what the stat is, but let's just say that there's 1 million children out there that are playing football at his level, not people that are below, at his level. 10 of them will make it into the Premier League. So do you want to do this, where there's a slim chance, a very slim chance you're going to get in, or be an engineer, and all you've got to do is read a few books and understand maths and understand graphical drawing. Which one's easier? Well, this one's easier. Right, we'll go for that and do that as a hobby. If that works out for you, fine, I'll retire early. If it doesn't, you have a career. And to answer the actual question, some of it is ease. What we look for is ease. Whether it be black people, white people, it doesn't matter. It's ease. I can be a social media influencer. What do I need to do that? I need my phone and I need a platform, which is TikTok or whatever it may be. Or I can be, like, my teacher at school says I can run fast. Right, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to do athletics. I can play football, so I'm going to put all my... It's easier. The commitment of sitting down and committing years to study, people just don't want to do that no more. Therefore, they look for an easy way out.
Sorry, I want you to continue. What you've said is the best example of anything that anyone else has said on this podcast.
I'm the truth.
I never said that.
Go on.
What you said, 100%, I agree with every single part of it. And I'm glad that you said it on the podcast.
Citrus doesn't
I'm going
agree
to jump
because his
in.
head was shaking.
It's nonsense.
It's not nonsense.
I'll tell you why it's nonsense.
You don't agree.
I don't agree to this nonsense.
It's not nonsense. It's not nonsense.
I don't agree to it.
Nonsense.
I don't agree to it because if you go back to the point that Sorelli made, it is what you were exposed to. Ease is an easy answer. And I'll tell you why. If your school teacher, your primary school teacher, only saw black people doing athletics and you're the fastest, guess what? You can be an athlete. It's not about ease. This is what I think you can do. If the same school teacher only saw black people driving buses, you can be a bus driver. Or just being a bin man, you can be a bin man. You can be a road sweeper. You can be all these things. The reason why I'm saying this is because when I went to my careers advisor, they said, oh, do you know what, Dean? You're really clever. You'd be a really good bus driver. What? I don't know how to drive a bus. You can be a bus driver. I don't want to drive a bus. Weirdly enough, and I've said this on a podcast maybe 3 years ago, that same teacher came into the bank, asked me for a loan. I was like, oh, nice to be your bus driver. Oh, you're a bank manager. No, I'm still a bus driver. Do you get what I'm saying? So what I'm saying, I appreciate the words that you're sharing to say it's ease, but you have to think to yourself, as Sorelli said, if the environment only shows you 2% of the availability, then all you're going to look for is that same 2% of the availability. If you do not know that living in Hackney, growing up in Clapton, that you can be an astronaut because Buddy, who was your next door neighbour, became an astronaut, do you know what? What do I need to be an astronaut? What, study physics? Let me go and do that. I'm not saying ease isn't included, Rain, but what I'm saying is you have to think to yourself how powerful those people who are your careers advisors, who are the people of influence. It's mad.